How are we doing today?
Dude, I've been doing good. I've been doing good. It's good to catch up with you, man. What about you
Yeah,
do? What you been
yeah,
up
you
to?
too. Uh, got a lot of homework for school. Did like
Nice.
three assignments before this, so I could just get caught up. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go outside, go on a little hike after this. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow, going
yeah,
outside. Nice.
yep. I know it's rare,
I
rare
know,
for people
rare.
like us. I know,
Rare,
I know.
rare. Dude,
Yep,
freaking
yep.
I just came back from being outside, bro. It was kind of nice. I went on like a
Dude,
nice little
I'm
walk.
jealous. I'm jealous.
Yeah,
Needless
dude.
to say. Yeah,
So yeah, like actually I wanted to reach out to you and like talk to you about your music. So it stood out to me. You like did like a lot of that the hard tech stuff, and then honestly I see that movement and like that change that you're trying to get into where you're starting your own kind of thing where it's kind of like that Echo House Angel Radio kind of thing. So I've
yeah.
been kind of keeping up with all of that. So I wanted to get into that. So first of all, I wanted to ask you like what helps like inspire your current aesthetic online as of right now.
I would say the current aesthetic that I follow is like the early 2000s kind of recession music, especially like going
Mm-hmm.
into what you said, my house, my new subgenre of ambient house that I've kind of tailored after like Cult Member and
Mm-hmm.
Yago, like those guys, they really helped me kind of shape my aesthetic
Yeah.
because it kind of showed me what, how artists take me back in time almost.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to do the same thing for people that listen to my music.
Yeah.
So I thought, with the new sound that I'm introducing, I may as well usher in a new era for my music and chase the old, party music kind of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, that's super cool. I've been kind of keeping track. Like, there's definitely that cult member aesthetic that I can like listen into. It's where it's like that super underwater sounding, like, very interesting style where it's like kind of that ambient. Where I feel like a lot of that style of music is super focused on the pads, the reverb, like that, all that kind of style.
Yeah, yeah. No, I try to make it super, super blurred, almost giving like a dream like state.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of giving again like trying to give nostalgic qualities.
Oh yeah. So, do you think that your like aesthetic right now does it like reflect how you feel creatively, like as of right now, or is it more of something of like a persona that you're building intentionally over time?
So I think it's more of a persona that I'm trying to build over
Mm-hmm.
time because as you said, I've been building my account basically on TikTok and Instagram, focusing on hard EDM and genres like jump style and basically, like I said, hard dance. But I think as I evolve my music style and as I explore what I want to expose to the world,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I'm actually evolving with my music.
Yeah,
So I would say even my identity and my music is evolving in cahoots. They're kind of moving together.
that's good. Yeah, because they kind of should be moving together, especially if you want to develop a brand online. Like you have to kind of make sure both of them are kind of adjacent, or else like you get lost in the sauce, in my opinion.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, so has your visual identity evolved as well, or do you kind of also treat that separately? Because I noticed that the edits that you make as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, the edits that I was making to like the hard tech and hard dance were more grungy and graincore esque versus now
Mm-hmm.
it's more of club esque and stuff that I honestly when I was a kid I was just dreaming of not only making but seeing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was listening to the early 2000s recession music, I thought the world would be in a completely different place to as where it is now,
Yeah.
with everything going on. We don't got to get into all that, but
Yeah.
you know, I just feel like that it has my visual identity has evolved ever since even I was like 7 years old,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so yeah, I feel like I would honestly put them together. I
Mm-hmm.
would I would say yeah. I don't treat them as super separate. I think they kind of like I said they work together.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I kind of see that, like, especially with like the state of the world right now, like it's pretty messy. And like everybody, I feel like anytime the world kind of gets messy, people turn to that recession style of music. It happened in 2008, and it's happening, in my opinion, right now,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
there's like a huge move and there's this huge shift to make more like pop sounding music, like good times music. You know what I mean?
exactly. Good times. Yeah, that's actually a really good way to say it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you mentioned cult member and Diego. I actually wanted to ask you like, who are your biggest inspirations to your sound right now?
I would say, well, when it comes to the hard dance, because I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily done with that style, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely, putting it on the back burner, or I guess like giving
Mm-hmm.
house music and my new genre, space to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the biggest inspirations that I have so far, like I said, Yago, Cult Member, and I Love You Hear You.
Oh yeah.
He's been pretty big for me for a while. Dimitri, I used to listen to a lot of his music, and a lot of those guys in that space. And
Hmm.
honestly, like house artists like Chris Dussy, obviously, and Lomaji, a lot of these ambient house producers as well as just mainstream house.
Hmm.
So I would say there's definitely there's a lot in the pool, and I think using all of their sounds, I'm able to just pull inspiration. But at the end of the day, with Angel Radio and even my newest song 1111,
Hmm.
I've tried to kind of veer off of the following path and trying to just make something that I can call mine.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's important to not necessarily copy someone's style, but it's okay to be inspired by it, you know? Like I feel like
Yeah, of
whenever
course.
you learn or produce or something, you kind of start off copying, which I think is kind of typical. But like as you learn and grow your artist brand and like become an artist of your own, like it's important to have that distinction and be like, okay, like I'm gonna start my own sound. And that's what I kind of see happening with that Angel Radio and like all of that stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So specifically with those artists that you mentioned previously, are there any songs that like stand out to you that really
Mm.
resonate?
Any songs? Let me pull up my playlist real quick.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
give you
no, of
a few
course.
good shoots. Let's see. In terms of, I'll give you an album,
Hmm.
and then I'll give you a few songs.
Sure.
So, one of the biggest inspirations for what made me actually want to get into this, ambient house was Cult Member's 2018 album,
Hmm.
Last Week.
Yeah.
To me, that is, one of the best pieces of trance and, house and pretty much electronic music that I've listened to in a while. So to me, this album has created a big push in a direction
Yeah.
for me. And in terms of songs, I would say anything by Bonaz,
Hmm.
Bonnaz. He's a really good ambient trap producer. He makes boom trap. Anything by Gygus, Scars, Berserk. Berserk's really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Boy 2000. Any of these guys really. But I would say if there's any ones that super stand out, I would have to say, and this is probably gonna be a popular pick for people that listen to this song. Um, but obviously you weren't here. I really miss you. That one's
Yeah.
really good in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Mind Control by Berserk. Those are really good. And I think if I had to give like a podium, maybe like a third, The Rave Death Still Hurts. That one's also really good.
Hmm. Yeah, no, like cult member classic. I think him and Diego are really pioneering the ambient house genre, which is really interesting
Mhm.
because like I feel like cult member's been at it for a while. Like if you really look at when you
Oh
weren't
yeah.
really here, I really miss you. That released in 2019. So like it's been I think he's been on this wave for a while, and it's finally starting to get some recognition because it blew up. I think like what, a year or 2 years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like really
Yeah.
interesting to see that that shift in demographic or like the shift in the demographic of the listener of like when people were actually making this stuff and then versus when like it's being listened to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so going towards your production, when you start a song, do you normally start with the drums, the melody, or the bass? Like, or what's like their typical starting?
So usually I just start with the melody because I think, in my opinion, that's the groundwork,
Hmm.
realistically. If you can start with the melody, that's going to shape the way that your sound behaves. Your bass is going to move in a specific pattern in accordance to the melody, and your drums, in my opinion, in accordance to the bass with the melody. So I think, starting with the melody is probably, in my opinion, the best way to go.
Hmm. No, I kind of agree with that because like when you start with a melody, you kind of get the feel, the vibe, like the catchiness of the song. It kind of comes with that melody. Whereas when like I used to personally start with drums, and I still in a way kind of do sometimes, just to get like okay,
Mhm.
what genre am I making today? Versus whenever you start with a melody, it's kind of like okay, like you're trying to capture that catchiness of like a song, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So have you always started with a melody, or have you started with something else before?
So I would say, in my early producing days, I think I would say I also started with the drums, and then the bass. It's kind of weird. It's like my process is almost reversed. It's
Hmm.
it's it's pretty weird. But I think, through the evolution of my music, I've just learned that, if I want to create a sound, I have to hear it in my head first. And to me, the first thing I hear is a melody.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I think that's how it's been, evolved into.
Hmm. Yeah, so like I think when it starts with a melody, as I said before, like it really enhances and captures the essence of the song. And do you, so yeah, going on, building on top of that, do you ever build tracks around samples or find sounds that inspire the mood first, or is that something that you put on the back burner?
So, I mean, I would say it definitely depends on the genre. Like, I would
Hmm.
say with, genres like boom trap and ambient boom trap and any type of I guess hip hop derivative or something like that is to honestly work around with samples, and that's where I
Hmm.
started. I started doing like trap. Obviously, I think a lot of producers do that.
Yeah.
And so I worked with samples a lot, and it was honestly the first 2 years of my music making that I never really even thought to go further than that because at that point it wasn't really even like a passion. It was more of just a hobby,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I think I at first would definitely build tracks around samples. But in terms of the samples, those would, that in turn inspire the mood,
Yeah.
So I would say the samples themselves, obviously, depending on what genre you're doing,
Hmm.
going through thousands, hundreds and hundreds of samples, to just even get an idea of what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. Especially like if I'm doing house sometimes, maybe I'll find like a pad on Splice and it's like, oh, this sounds interesting. Let me see how I can change this to
Hmm.
fit my grand scheme of melody.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think like samples and stuff. Like I think it's important to like to know how to flip them and turn it into something your own rather than just drag and dropping. Especially when it comes to
Exactly.
Splice, because you can hear a song like let's say like I don't know like some random song on the radio or something. You can immediately tell like oh this is like some Splice melody that I've heard before. And
Yeah,
yeah, and the
yeah.
thing is like it pops off. Like it's not about whether or not it pops off. It's about whether or not like the producer community that like is super tapped into stuff like people recognize it. You know what I mean?
hmm Yeah, no, 100%.
So yeah,
Yeah.
like building on top of that, like where do you stand on the usage of drum samples and loops?
So I think with drum samples, I think it's totally fine. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't use drum samples, honestly. I would say in terms of loops, if you're starting with production, I would say it's honestly, I would say that's the go-to, really.
Yeah.
But if you're, starting to try to evolve your sound, I think that's definitely where I would encourage generating your own melodies.
Hmm.
Just so again, you can just discover what you want, and there's nothing holding you back, really.
Yeah.
Because if you have Serum or like Astra, if you have any of these plugins, you can just make. It's a creative aspect, and that's the creative aspect that I enjoy.
Hmm.
So I would say, I'm not against using loops, but I would say, it's not as much of a creative endeavor because you're using a pre-existing loop. It's something
Yeah.
that already exists within either a 4 bar or an 8 bar sequence,
Oh
or
yeah.
so on.
Hmm. And then do you think like the originality about like that specific sample is it just kind of like what stands out as original to you? Is it the way that you manipulate the sample or is it the effects and the VSTs that you put on top of that sample?
Honestly, I think it could be all of the above, really.
Hmm.
I think, again, just tailoring it to something that you might not even know what you want in the moment, but the more you experiment and the more you play around with EQs, delay, blah blah blah, etc. Um, I think you'll just eventually just discover what you want to hear and then, turn that into your own style.
Hmm. No, I kind of agree with that. It's kind of really cool to see that like every song in a way is kind of unique because everybody uses different effects, different VSTs, different EQs, different ways of cutting out like low ends, high ends, whatever ends. You know what I mean? And like that's
Mm,
what's really cool about these like songs and stuff because it's like okay, like everybody has like their own unique sound. And even if someone's trying to copy somebody else, in a way, like they're kind of doing it in their own way because you can never truly copy somebody unless you know exactly what effects they're using on the exact parameters of those effects.
yeah, yeah.
So going building on top of all those effects and stuff like that. So what are your top three VSTs?
Top three VSTs. If you're talking about, effect VSTs, how about this? I'll give you three effect VSTs and three sound generators.
Perfect. Yeah.
So for effects, I would say, and this is gonna probably make sense to a lot of producers out there, is just default Fruity plugins.
Okay.
So Fruity Delay 2. Oh, by the way, I'm an FL Studio producer. Just gonna put that out there.
All right.
I would say anything Fruity Delay 2, Fruity Delay 3. I really like Valhalla, the
Hmm.
entire Valhalla effects pack. That's those are the three that stand out for me. And I think in terms of sound generators, Serum 1, that's a go-to.
Hmm.
Serum 2, obviously, you got to follow it up with Serum 2. And then, like I said, Astra. Astra's it's just the issue about Astra though is that it's a Splice built-in plugin.
Hmm.
However, it has some of the most insane sounds I've heard in a while. So I would say those three I would definitely recommend. And you know what? I can even loop the two for Serum 1 and Serum 2 together, and I can throw in like Harmor even. Harmor, like a default plugin if you buy the version of FL Studio that it comes with, is super useful. And my friend who's been making music for 8 years, his name is Asylum. He he's a wizard with that. Like he is a wizard with default plugins. He makes patcher plugins with default plugins. So those are the six, I guess I would suggest.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think it's super important, like for example, with Serum, like learning how to use these parameters and stuff. Because then, like what you mentioned, like if you learn how to use like those parameters, you can be a wizard and stuff and create whatever the hell you want. And like you can literally just
Exactly.
imagine a sound and it'll just come out like perfectly. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
what's a plugin that you think is super underrated or super underused?
Plugin I think is super underrated or super underused. Honestly, anything from the Kilohertz bundle.
Hmm.
Kilohertz is one of the best effects bundles that I've used in my time producing. Definitely, I haven't really heard it a whole lot, but I do know that a lot of people use it.
Hmm.
I just know that it's underrated. I would say that not a lot of people talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're an FL Studio user. Was that your first DAW, or did you switch from like a different DAW from before?
So, I mean, I think as most producers go, I started on GarageBand as a young jit. I started off on my iPad, just playing around with loops and stuff, and then I got my first MacBook, and then I was trying to make songs with that, but it never really, it was more for fun,
Hmm.
and then as soon as I got to around the age of 16, about that's when I really started, pushing,
Hmm.
using different DAWs and trying to just evolve my sound
Oh
and
yeah.
just become better.
I think learning different DAWs is something that I feel like is important. Like I try to learn Pro Tools personally, like in back in the day,
Mm,
and then I try to learn FL Studio recently. Just neither of them really clicked with me because I use Ableton, so like I mean, neither of them really clicked with me as much as Ableton did. I feel like I've just been using it for so long, and I feel like people that use FL Studio kind of say the same thing. They're like, yeah, like I love FL Studio. I've been using it for so long. Like hard, it's like a difficult
exactly.
switch. It's like a complete different curveball because like all
Yeah,
the parameters and the stuff that are built into that software, you know how to use super well.
100%.
So, who do you see yourself collaborating with next?
Who do I see myself collaborating with next? Who? I mean, in terms of a list, I'll give you three.
Okay.
Um, Yago, 100%. That
Mm-hmm.
would be that would be not necessarily a dream collab, but I know that I've looked up to his sound for about a year and a half now, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just found that with his music, it's so creatively inclined that I've tried to, you know, also kind of branch off into my own sound and try to do something similar, where I
Mm-hmm.
follow, obviously I love house music. I've listened to house music since I was a kid. I love Romanian music. Romanian music is one of the main inspirations behind what I do. And so coming with all these, ideas and stuff like that, I would say dream collab, yes, definitely Yago. Who else? Maybe, I mean, I was saying cult member, but literally anybody in the house industry, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So even like Chris Stussy, look, like I said, any of the people I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I would be so down. I mean, even I'm collaborating with my friends right now, so like I'm just trying to build up my repertoire of who I work with.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's super important to build repertoire before you start doing collabs. You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of develop
Exactly.
your own sound. And like that's something that like I see personally a lot like whenever people DM me for collabs and stuff where it's like people like ask like, "Hey, let's collab." And I'm like I go through their stuff and I'm like, "You don't even have songs out." You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or
Or they just follow something that just doesn't resonate, it just doesn't
exactly.
resonate with what you want to see.
No,
Yeah.
exactly, and I think it's super important. Like, if you're asking for collabs, you gotta like look into like what have they recently made? What's the shift that they're trying to do? Like collab, like talk to their friends. You know what I mean? Like, you have to. It's not just like one person. Like, people are networked like with like 100 other people. I think you gotta like really test the waters there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what do you look for in someone creatively before deciding to collaborate?
I think it's more of a I guess mental thing. If I see not okay, I would say you have to be someone that I resonate with on a personal level. If I believe that you are like me in the fact of you're a kind person. I would like to think of myself as a I'm obviously, I joke around and whatnot, but
Hmm.
I try to be kind to whoever I work with, and I just try to create a really beneficial environment where we can create something nice. I'll give feedback when feedback is due. I won't, harshly judge, and I ask the same thing back. You know,
Hmm.
and I'd say again, it's just what kind of person you are. I
Yeah.
think that's what draws me to artists is if you are someone who, is known for being a beacon in your community, then of course I would want to work with you.
Yeah.
But if you're known as someone who, hates on other people all the time or, has like these secret conversations where, people talk about other people, like that kind of stuff, I don't really mess with that. So just keeping it creative and keeping it positive. I really like a positive space.
Yeah, I think that's super important, like when it comes to like creating these positive spaces and also with communities, because like I think when you're looking for collaborations and stuff, it's really good to be involved in multiple communities, not just like one, and like creating like good environments in all of them. Like you want to really build that repertoire doing it that way. At least that's how I see it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like, okay,
Exactly.
like I want to work with this person. I don't care about streams. I don't care about like money. Like there is some aspect to that, but it's mostly like,
Of
okay,
course.
this
But you're
person
just in it to do
personally,
it, it's
yeah,
fun.
like I want to hang out with this person. You know what I mean? Like deep down, it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, this guy's chill. Like, you know what I mean? So, has any specific collab taught you something that changed how you work solo?
Yeah, I think honestly, this is gonna sound kind of bizarre. I'd like collabing, but not really that much because again, I'm
Hmm.
trying to produce my own sound, and
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to do that when other people have, their own ideas of what they want to add to it. So
Hmm.
again, like you said, you build your sound up before you start expanding.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Except, a lot of my friends, like I said, I've tried to create a creative environment where people like me can make the same thing and are trying to make the same thing.
Hmm.
And I've collabed with those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
I think that's smart.
I
Like,
think, yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, no, you're good.
I think it's smart to collaborate with people with like-minded personalities, like-minded vision and marketing, because it's not just songs, right? Like, it's not just like good music. Like you gotta have to have the same vision, the same marketing. Like let's say like
Exactly.
you collab with X person, right? This person also needs to have the same style of marketing, same vision in terms of like sound and music, like the direction that they're going in. You know what I mean? Like because it just makes it easier
Yep.
for everyone involved, and it just makes everything also cheaper to market. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a lot
Yeah.
of like different things that come in together and come into play.
Yeah, 100%.
So, what is your favorite and your least favorite song that you've made?
Whew. Favorite and least favorite. So
Hmm.
favorite Angel Radio, 100%.
Okay.
That was when I, was in my experimental phase and I was just trying to make something that I
Hmm.
I would honestly listen to in my own time. And yeah, I think that is quite honestly my favorite song that I've ever made. My
Hmm.
least favorite. Whew, man. There's a few of those, but if I had to choose, honestly, Brutal. I don't really like Brutal that much.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a mix of a lot of hard genres. Like obviously it's supposed to be jump style, but it has elements of, up tempo and stuff like that. In the beginning it goes doom doom doom, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Although, I find appreciation in those types of genres. Otherwise I never would have even made the track. I
Yeah.
think in terms of rankings, it's probably at the lowest in terms of what I made.
Yeah. I feel you. Like I think those style like hard tech and stuff like it's pretty good, but I feel like there's a lot of like negativity that's in that community specifically,
Oh yeah,
like in the
100%.
black pill and whatever. Like I think like long term it's just like not good like how those edits like affect people.
Yeah, and this is I'm gonna preface this is, I do think that there are certain aspects of, humans that, do matter in society, but I don't think it's this like it's not this black and white.
Yeah.
Obviously I prefer positivity over constant disagreements, trying to hurt other people,
Yeah.
into changing into a societal vision. To me, that is not something that I subscribe to.
Yeah, no, and that's totally understandable considering the style of the environment that black pill and like all that stuff kind of tends to breed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, dude, I made this kind of music because, I'm a gym goer. Me personally, I love going to the gym.
mhm.
So this is the type of music I would listen to the gym. Even before Black Pill was mainstream, I didn't even know what that was. I
Yeah,
was just listening to this for the fun of it, you
yeah,
know?
and I think most people that do listen to the style of the music that you make and stuff like are just genuinely just hard tech enjoyers. It's just like there's just like a specific branch of it that just tends to make it not that positive of a community.
Exactly.
So yeah. So building onto that, like, how do you feel like the music that you make has changed you as a person?
Hmm. I think I've just developed more into the person that I want to become. Like I said, ever since I was a little kid, I've kind of, listening to the radio in the car, you know, listening to old Romanian music and, Pitbull and, pretty much just any really big pop in 2000s artist that I just had such an innate curiosity about how those songs were made. And I think allowed me to just pursue my creative vision.
Hmm.
And I think if I didn't do that, I would be a much more boring person as a result. I probably, wouldn't. I would probably choose like a dull hobby. Like to me, this is a hobby and a lifestyle. I love music.
Yeah.
It's shaped my entire life, and I could not imagine where I'd be without it.
Oh, 100%. I think like when it comes to making music and stuff, it's like such a passion. Like I feel like me personally, like I can't ever stop thinking about it. And like a lot of the
Never.
people that I've interviewed or worked with or collaborated or whatever, like also believe the same thing. So that's what's like really nice about this community is that we're all on the same page.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, do you have a plan to release an album anytime soon?
Um. Hmm. I think yeah, I mean I would definitely be open to. I wouldn't say I necessarily have a plan because I did drop an album previously in the year of 2025.
Hmm.
It's known as Mog, which unfortunate name. But it's that's the first album I ever dropped, and I wouldn't be opposed to dropping another one. Maybe I'll switch up the genre a little bit. Just give a little bit of refreshing sounds to my community,
Hmm.
and just make stuff that I deem not necessarily worthy of posting, but deemed listenable, I think.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
No, that's understandable considering like the album, for example, like with Mog versus like let's say like the new genre of music that you're making, like the Angel Radio, like Echo House stuff. I feel like
Mhm.
that's more it has a much more like mainstream appeal, and I can see that direction, like why you would want to go in that direction and create an album of that kind of sound. So, my final question related to like that music side of the interview is like if there's any piece of advice that you would give like a new producer or an artist, what would that be?
Okay. Yeah. No, I think my any piece of advice I would give is keep going and look, that might sound basic, but my friends are dealing with a lot of issues like beat block and feeling unmotivated. One of my friends wanted to quit music recently. I would just say, you know, take time.
Hmm.
Take your time. Look, this shit does not come fast. I've been producing for 5 years, and look, that's relatively short in the grand scheme of things. I
Hmm.
know people that are producing for 11 plus years. So take your time. Time is everything, and if you want to get better at things, you have to be able to put time into them.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think building time is like such an important aspect in production and like really trying to expand that. And then also on top of that, I think one of the really the best thing you can do for the community is to build stronger connections with the people around you. I think that's the best thing as well
Of course, yeah.
to give advice like newer people.
And make good friends. Do not make bad friends in the industry
Oh
because
yeah,
that will dictate your entire future.
it will, and also it will just be like a bad look, and it's hard to get rid of that. It's hard to erase that.
Exactly. Yep.
So switching gears a little bit, we're gonna go into more like personalized questions, like different style of questions. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like, what is the best game made in your opinion?
Man, we're getting in there. Okay, okay. Best game made in my opinion. Now, don't let my Discord profile fool you. Yes, I love Sifu. Sifu is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. However, damn, bro, this is hard. This is hard.
Yeah, it's hard, huh?
Shit. Can I give like top three? Can I do top
Sure,
three?
top three.
Okay, okay. I'll do Sifu,
Mm-hmm.
Plants vs Zombies,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, God damn, this is hard, bro. Uh, shoot, Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft's fire, dude. Minecraft is just so
Yeah,
versatile. Everything happens in Minecraft.
yeah,
And then
and I think honorable mention Terraria.
yeah, Terraria is pretty fire. Like the modded version
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
The T
Oh
mod,
yeah.
bro. All
Oh,
right.
dude, 100%. It just expands the game and it just makes it a whole lot more fun.
Yeah, and there's like more to do, you know what I mean? And like same
Of
thing with
course, yeah.
Minecraft and PvZ and all that. Like these modded versions of these games are like so much more fun.
Yeah.
So, what's your dream car?
Okay. So me personally, I'm not much of a car guy, but I guess the BMW M5 F90. I think
M5,
to me
M90.
it's such a sleek look. I've always liked the BM. I've always liked BMWs. My uncle drives one, so I've grew up watching him, shop cars and all this and this. So I think, yeah, I think I'd probably gear towards that.
Nice. Yeah, Beamers are pretty sick. My only issue is that they just like leak oil like nobody's business.
Yeah, yeah, I've
But
heard of that. I heard, yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
Beamers are pretty cool if like they're really good cars if you take good care of them. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
And then my final last question is like if you could camp in three places in the entire world, where would you go?
Damn. Okay, and could we just this is just end like literally
Anywhere,
anywhere.
anywhere you
Okay,
want.
man, I would have to go to the Okay, well, I mean, I live in California,
Hmm.
so Mount Shasta,
Oh hell
I
yeah.
love going to Mount Shasta. I go there occasionally, so definitely that's one of them. Um, hmm, maybe somewhere in Europe, like Portugal.
Hmm.
I'm not, I'm not too sure of like, yeah, yeah, of course, I've never been there. I
Yeah.
do plan to go there, but yeah, I think anywhere in Portugal, really. And, ooh, man, this is hard. Let's go with
Yeah, it's hard, bro. I know it's hard.
another camp spot. Wow. I want to go to Japan. I want to try going to Japan.
Yeah,
I think
Japan is sick.
that's another good one.
Yeah.
Beautiful greenery, amazing sights. I think there's no reason not to.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to Japan, but I've heard it's like really, really like sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've never heard
yeah.
a
No,
bad thing.
I'm planning to go this summer for the first time, so
Oh
we'll
hell
see.
yeah, brother.
But yeah,
All right, dude. I think that should be it for the interview, dude. Thank you so much for your time.
of course, bro. It's been a blast. It's been a blast. Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. I'll see you
Hell
around.
yeah. Sounds good, man.